from Significant. This is Crack It in an Hour.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Crack It in an Hour. I'm Simon.
I'm Jessie.
And today we have a guest.
Woo. Hello. My name is Biff Butler. I'm an editor. I'm a co-founder of an editorial company called Papercut, and I'm here to help crack
Awesome.
Something.
It's awesome to have you here. Thank you so much, man. This is absolutely fantastic. I'm so stoked. Jesse's stoked. For those of you who don't know, it is one problem, 1 hour to crack it, once a week. And Biff, you brought the problem. Jesse, you have the clock ready.
Started
right?
the timer.
Okay. Biff, let's do it.
Woo.
Well, I think that the part of the problem is to whittle this down, because I've been really focusing on this notion that we're often being told to aspire to something. And I think we've overshot the mark a bit much. I think we can zoom out to talking about how negative the notion of billionaires is, that they should be shamed. There shouldn't be such things as billionaires. But even on a smaller level, we should be heralding products that maybe last more than a year. People don't need the latest device, the latest sneakers, the latest this. If I see someone and, is that jacket 5 years old? That should be a cool thing. It should be.
Oh, this is interesting.
It should be better to be to have longevity in the stuff that we purchase. But then, and I'm not going to.
I love this. This is great.
I'm trying not to skirt around too much, because I think what I want to rewind back to a little bit is the value of music. And stick with me for a second.
Okay.
I recently paid $35 per ticket to go see a new movie in a large format, and it was a fantastic experience. 3 hours. And I'm probably not going to watch that movie again unless I see it in a bigger format. I listen to music all the time, and there might be a track which moves me to tears, and we don't really speak about it much.
No,
we just they're somewhat disposable. You maybe pay a subscription that you've forgotten about for a streaming service where you could have all the recorded history.
Yeah.
But these pieces of music, you'll listen to the same album, I'm sure, that you were listening to since you were the age of 14 over and over and over again. Yeah. It'll put you back to a time in your life. And so it's how to find value in music, but also, and forgive me, this is what I didn't want to do, is conflate too many problems.
This is great.
Because I think you can purchase music these days. You can go out and buy vinyl. You can go. I've started to recollect CDs. I realized that my car still had a CD player, and
that's cool.
I think you get more value out of something when you purchase it, when you can hold it.
Yes. And
so that brings us back to the tangible things that you have. How do I whittle that down to one problem? What is that problem?
I have thoughts, but
the first problem is which problem?
What is the problem?
That is the problem.
No, I have thoughts, but I'm curious if you want to go first.
Well, I made like a visceral sound when you first started talking, because I thought you were going to ask us, how do we get people to aspire to less?
I think that is what I wanted to walk in here for.
And I was like, damn, that's a good problem. I love that.
Because I think we'll go ahead. That should really be the focus. That should be the focus.
No, but I think there's a couple angles. I mean, because you can talk about ownership and disposable culture as one of the things that is a really critical lever in aspiration or de-aspiration, I'm now going to call it. Yeah. Or we can have a conversation about how do you make tangible things important again. And I think that's also really interesting, because that can also play into third space. It can play into music. So I think we can go either direction.
I could add a third one too.
Okay, go on.
Which
is fun.
Which is like, how do you find and create the true value of art? Because I think that's a little bit of what you're talking about with music as well. But so you brought a real basket here.
Now we've given you three. You have to choose one.
I think it is how you. I forget, you phrased it very well. How you
aspire
market
for less.
How do you get people to aspire to less?
To less. And I think that can be for the consumer, the people.
Yeah.
But also, I think what really kind of got me thinking about it was companies.
Yeah.
Where it's all about how much is the company worth, and part of doing that involves possibly layoffs and
Totally.
you're making more money, but for fewer people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the whole premise of all of this, where no matter what room you're currently in, if you're listening to this on your headphones and you just wave your arms around, this should be to feed, pay, clothe as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Right? Not fewer people, more.
Yeah.
More stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think, again, you can't convince companies to want to earn less, but the bragging rights should be of how many people they have
Totally
paid, how many people
Right.
they've employed, not what the value is on a stock market thing. So I think that is the how do you aspire to less? I think that's
Wow, that's cool.
Do you think this is a specifically American problem, or it's more global than that?
Spoken like a true Canadian. No, I you know what? That's funny because I think you're right. I think it is, and I've lived here for a very long time. I'm originally from here, but every time I go back to England, it occurs to me that as a foundation, the culture feels like what we here in LA aspire to,
Right.
in terms of mindfulness, work-life balance, all these things. In England, you're sort of like, what are you talking about? That's just what we do. That's just what we're doing. People don't check their emails after a certain time.
Totally.
I'm sure in pockets of London, there is that hustle culture, but it really is about, you're unplugging, you're just going down to the pub on Sunday. It's all very, I guess, constantly answering the question of what's the point in all this?
Yeah.
And here I think we lose track of that.
There's also something I think I find, and this is going back to my days in advertising, which is that in even the world of advertising, I worked with, everyone knows, I worked with a company that had a headquarters in Britain. And every once in a while, we'd have conversations where it would kind of come down to this, like, well, why don't you hire a group of people to do this for you? Which sounds on paper like that makes sense. But the thing I realized very quickly about specifically this company in London is that there was a sense of pride attached to certain, let's call them more blue collar professions, that I think in this country, it's like, well, if you're doing that, it's because
you couldn't do the other thing.
Oh,
you
interesting.
want to go further and do the next thing or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas to what you're talking about specifically, that idea of like it's the same when I go back to Canada, right? Which is like when I go back, like my shoulders drop 2 inches. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you just feel it in the air. Like it's just a little less in the fast lane. Now, the thing that I think Americans would argue, because I don't want this to be like Canada's right, America's wrong, because it's not that, is I think what America became as an immigrant to America is like, America is the place where it's like, if you want to take a shot in the big leagues,
take a shot,
come to America.
Yeah.
You know
and
what I
go
mean?
big or go
And like,
home.
it's kind of unapologetic.
Yeah.
It's kind of is what it is, but you can dream. Cause I think the other side effect of that in Canada, and I think there's a little bit of this in England too, is a little bit of that tallest poppy effect, which is like, if in Canada you show your ambition too much, people kind of want to knock you down and go like, why are you trying so hard? Or why do you think you should be that? So it's this funny, weird balance to it.
I think what's really interesting, and there's so many dimensions to this conversation, but you're talking about aspiration from a career perspective, almost like an ambition, a career, a growth. And that's obviously, I mean, the entrepreneurial, driven really by like Silicon Valley narrative in the US, I think is very prominent, that created hustle culture and all of that. But aspiration, where I think you were going, Biff, is like, also let's say, has become embedded into consumerism as you feel like everything you have is no longer enough.
Yeah.
No matter what you have, it's not enough, because the minute you get a new iPhone, 6 months later, another one comes out, and then you're like, damn it. And now I've got the old one. Yeah. And then there's like drop culture basically made every time something new drops, it basically means the other thing is old news. Yeah. And so
that's a good point.
I think, we should talk about all of it, but it is interesting to me because I think the solution will be somewhere in the small before you can take down, the career aspiration, because that is also so embedded into American culture, as you said. But, you know, I think the minute that companies started to use aspiration as a strategy to make money off of people, I mean, it was a good idea. But all of a sudden now scarcity cult, like all of these things basically we made people feel like what they had and who they were wasn't enough, so they would want more.
Right.
That's crazy.
Do you have anything in your life that by the judgment of the masses would be considered not valuable, but that you really enjoy or value more because of its age, its wear, its whatever it is?
Give me an example. I feel like you have something.
Well, like, I mean, like the first thing that comes to mind for me that I think is like what you see right now with popular culture is like vintage shopping, right? Like, like it's like this idea of like getting something that isn't kind of like intentionally kind of brand new, but you have something that has a little bit of character, a little bit of life.
Kind of like antiquing for kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's antiquing for
streetwear
kids.
antiquing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, there was a real revelation that came, you know, I'm a professional video editor. So usually you'd want the most powerful device to perform your task as quickly as possible. And then things got just way too unwieldy. The computers that they make now are really, if we were going to go make the new Pixar movie.
Right.
And for what a regular video editor can do, or needs to do, you can generally do on your phone. I mean, I wouldn't advise it, but so I just started to get I do my day-to-day editing just on a MacBook Air, like usually it's reserved for like writing emails, and it's fine. And my one now is, I don't know how many years, 4 years old maybe, and I love it. Like the screen's not super clean, the keyboard could use a wash, you know what I mean? But it's just like, that's something where I'm like, you know, I see someone with one of the newer machines, I'm like, that's great, but you don't need 80% of that machine. You know what I mean? And so I think that is where, again, no one knows because all the computers look the same, but it's I think that is where you kind of see a company start to just like sail past what it needs to do. I mean, it's the same with the phones, I guess.
This is how I feel about luggage. Like,
oh my God.
I think the Rimowa suitcase is one of the worst suitcases I've ever used in my life. And I apologize if you have one and you love it, to anyone that's a big fan. But it's, do you have one?
No.
It's heavy. It's so heavy. It's so heavy. You're carrying around a steel.
That's like the big metal.
This is just already twice as heavy as an object before I put anything inside of it. It has no pockets. It has no zippers.
Sure.
It has like nothing of value, but it's sort of this aspirational suitcase of like the creative industry.
Sure.
And I'm like, and I'm not saying design doesn't matter. Like I actually like the Away bag a lot. It's simple, but it's highly functional. And it's interesting to me because it made me think of it with the computer. I actually prefer things that are not, I like to use the stuff that I have, and I never want to be stressed about using it.
Yeah.
And like sometimes when you buy the brand new whatever, I'm like, I would like to immediately drop this so that I can just be like, move on with my life and be like, cool, this thing's scratched now. Now I'm totally cool. Like,
there's things that should be more rugged. It's like having a pair of sneakers that if they're pristine and white, you walk funny.
Exactly. And I love white sneakers. And so I put white sneakers on and immediately run around and get them dirty because I'm just like, cool, we moved past that part and I don't need to worry about it. That's a slightly different thing than aspiration, but your computer example made me think about how I feel about luggage.
No, it's true.
I have one that I always notice, which is Sub-Zero fridges. When people have a Sub-Zero fridge, and I'm always like, yeah, but mine I can get ice and water from, and it's like got these different compartments. Like it's just an unapologetic like giant box, and they're like $20,000. I'm like, seems like a very bad decision. Like my fridge is awesome. It's made by Samsung, and it's like made for a person who has like a family. You know what I mean? Not
functional.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I'd love to talk about why people fell for aspiration. I know it sounds like a dumb question.
Or keep falling for it.
Or keep falling for it. Like, why do we as humans sort of immediately fall into that idea of like, yes, I need more?
Was it MTV Cribs? That stuff.
That's it. All started there.
I know, because I feel like at some point, there was. This is going to age me, obviously, as being a '90s kid, but I think we rejected the hair metal, big, Motley Crue style music for the more the sort of shoegaze, Nirvana, grunge kind of Radiohead thing, and then came the more MTV Cribs. Look at my new whatever. Cars, all this sort of stuff. I think that ended up there's a braggadociousness that comes with definitely a lot of the social media side of things, that a lot of things being sort of comparing yourself to the fact that you're instantly aware of everything. That it's very hard to even identify this sort of this local cultures, because it is. I was very saddened to hear that friends' kids in England knew what 6'7" was. Young kids. I was like, how did it get all the way there? I'm sure it went international, because again, there is no local culture really. And so, I don't know why we fell for it.
I think comparison is a big part of it. You've heard me say this before, Simon, but I think that there's I think most people, I don't want to totally generalize, but most people are inherently competitive. Mm-hmm. And I really do believe, even subconsciously, we all want to be slightly better or have a little bit more than even the people we love.
Right.
My theory on why people don't share salaries for salary transparency is because they want to make sure they make just a little bit more than the person next to them, because this is, at least here, having, you're taught to have an edge, you're taught to have a leg up, you're taught to make sure that you're always doing you're working the system a little bit better than somebody else. It's why we don't have unfortunately, it's not a socialist mentality or structure, unfortunately. But I think that idea of, I need to be just a little bit better or have a little bit more than those around me, which is fueled, I think, a lot by social comparison culture.
But I think that idea of, I don't want to get, I don't have the brain power to get too sort of political, but I think when you talk about being not a socialist society, the fact there's no real social safety net here in America makes you feel like there is that hamster wheel side of things. You have to, and people might waste their money on certain things just to show that I'm making it, when in reality they might be one missed paycheck away from something pretty tragic. But versus maybe Canada and England, where it's people can take the Sunday off because they got some things taken care of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are that horrible combination of insecure and boring, which is I think for a lot of those people, it's I'll buy this fancy thing and I'm cool by association of owning that fancy thing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
it's all you have.
I think sadly, it is that. And it's interesting because I think you said something very interesting, which is the flattening of culture across the world, just how everything is kind of becoming its own thing. And I don't know if this is the exact same thing of what we're talking about, but it was an interesting thing, which is there's a really interesting connection between the death of local newspapers and local sort of only caring about what's happening in your backyard, and people losing a sense of self. Right. It's when things are, when you have a community, when you have a community newspaper, when you have a thing that is rooted in your day to day, you suddenly have a lot more tether to that place, to that reality, to that sort of thing. And then when you suddenly all that stuff disappears and you're like, oh shit, I'm competing on a global level on Instagram. I'm competing on a global level with every piece of thing I'm doing. I better try and keep up with that. I think it does create a little bit of that need to aspire for a little bit more in some weird way too. And I can't connect all those dots, but there's something there to me.
But I think it's interesting that you said a lack of self or losing of oneself, because I think the part of the issue is, and I'm sure there's an essay written somewhere about the front-facing camera on our phone, and the fact that it actually became too much about ourselves and not enough about the community. I'm not going to a shopping mall to see like what is everyone. I know that's where I'd go to see what everyone's wearing, but like what is the vibe around here? What is the local high street I can go to and just see what people are doing? And when I was talking to someone on the drive over here about what I might talk about, and I was trying to go on a whole thing about physical media, wanting to buy, CDs and DVDs, whatever. And she was saying how much she missed the idea of on a Friday night, like you still want to stay home. Everyone is all into their sweatpants and staying home, and I'm all about it. But it used to be nice if there was a bit of friction to where first you had to go to Blockbuster.
Yeah.
And you had to be like, let me see what, that movie's, you're sold out of that movie? Oh, and now I really want to see it. Like, this is, what's all happening. And just have that little bit of extra friction to where you can, you have to be around people. You have to go to a place first and then go home.
Yeah.
Or it's like, now you can order any meal you want and it's going to get sent straight to your door.
Yeah.
And again, those things that you see, whoever wearing whatever it is, you can click on the picture and then you can purchase it and it gets sent to you. And all that friction has been gone or has been taken away. That convenience has been taken away. I'm sorry, the inconvenience has been taken away. There's too much efficiency.
Yeah. That you lose your sense of self.
Yeah, you lose like what is the place that you kind of belong to.
Yes, exactly.
Which is it's not.
I think that's the weird thing about aspiration is a lot of times it's triggered by external comparison, but it's sort of lived in like a siloed world. It's like you not belonging to anything, just like head down on this singular path, trying to climb. And you have just sort of external triggers happening, but it's not like you're aspiring because you're looking around you. No, if that makes sense. It's sort of counterintuitive.
No, it totally. I see what you mean. It like aspiration can pull you off course from your own happiness, right?
Totally.
Like, because at that point, it's like you get so caught up in just the act of comparison without the purpose rooted in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I have another take though on why, like we're talking about comparison and we're talking about people's need to sort of stay ahead or to constantly improve. I have another theory that it maybe has nothing to do with any of that. And it has something to do with people's abstract relationship with money. Because I think like you were talking, what made me think about it is when you were talking about, I can't remember what you said, but I was thinking.
Was it the friction?
No, it was just before that, but I was thinking about how many people have gone into debt to go to Disney World. Or that there was just a very staggering statistic recently about specifically the debt people will go into just to go to Disney World, but also the number of people who will go into debt to go on vacation in general, people who go into debt to buy a new TV. There's a lot, I mean, like truly people who have no retirement savings. But like one of the things that's really interesting is there are like visible finances and invisible finances. So, right, anything visible is like you can see what kind of house I live in or what kind of car I drive. And so people obviously spend on those things because it's markers to the world. But the amount that people are going into debt for those things, and you could argue some of that is like keeping up with the Joneses sort of comparison. But I think that part of it is money is I think at least in the US, money is like a completely abstract concept. When you think of like when I look at like the debt number and it's like trillion, billion, gajillion dollars, and you're just like, okay, whatever.
Like money's not real anymore.
That's just whatever. Money's not real. Like and I think that because there's, when you were talking about the no safety net too, right? I think people are kind of like, YOLO, there's no safety net, retirement, what's that? There is no like trillions dollars of debt. Like what is trillions of dollars? And then we can just keep like printing money. And so you're kind of like, well, fuck it. If everybody else can just do that, like what do I care? I'm just going to spend. And so it just made me wonder if I do really believe that external comparison culture does drive a lot of unnecessary aspiration. But I also wonder if some of it is driven by just this complete abstract relationship to money.
Well, I think you don't have a physical relationship with money. You know, it's most of the time and again, convenience
tap.
has deprived us of really any real value to what that dollar amount is, because a thing shows up on an iPad and I wave my little magic device in front of it, and then another question comes up, 20%, sure, whatever, more money, and then you walk away and you have a matcha in your hand and you don't really know how it happened. But I was going back to the trip I took to England. When we were flying away, it occurred to me that this was the first trip we took where we didn't touch a piece of cash the entire time. And it wasn't by decision, it wasn't a conscious decision, but just everything is so convenient. You got on the tube, you got on the bus, you can do whatever it is. Everything is, your phone, your watch, whatever it is can pay for it. Very convenient. But I'm like, oh, it's a shame we don't have like the little souvenir of like a piece of money with the Queen's head on it.
Totally.
It's a shame. But it means that, so that's just like on the micro level, that you don't know how much those things really cost. And again, going back to the idea of music, it's you're able to fall in love with this music that you think you're downloading it for free, but really meanwhile Spotify is turning up the heat on how much you're paying. Netflix is turning up the heat on how much you're paying. Yeah. You have all these subscriptions that are just on auto pay. Don't tell me about it. I don't want to hear about it. But they've probably doubled since the beginning of COVID, and you're but then when your favorite artist comes to town, you're like, well, I should probably pay them some money. And now those tickets are outrageously expensive.
They've gotten crazy
expensive. And it's the only way an artist can make money. Yeah. But you don't want to be missing out. You don't want to be the person who can't post a picture from the show or whatever it is. And I'm sure you can also use Klarna or whatever to kind of to pay for it in installments, and it all feels
buy
very
now, pay later. That stuff is so scary.
Yeah, it's quite.
You can buy now, pay later anything
at all. Yeah, I can offer that for so many things where I'm like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure I can just buy that now.
Totally.
It's fine.
And also, if that is an option, maybe it shouldn't be for this particular thing. Like this is clearly a want, not a need object. Maybe perhaps we should not be putting it on a buy now, pay later plan.
You know what I miss? I miss physical tickets.
Yeah.
Like to that point, I still have a box in my house of like all the tickets of the things I went, like Guns N' Roses when I was 12 and like stuff like that I'm like, these are like, and then like this year I literally got like paid an absurd amount of money to take my son to Canada. Was in the World Cup. They're hosting the World Cup. We got to go to the first game of the World Cup. We taken that. And it's literally like, oh, it just dropped in my Apple wallet and it disappeared after the game.
So
like
there
was no like physical tactile sort of.
So then you have to buy him a souvenir for an extra $500,000. A t-shirt.
There was a movie a couple of years ago. I forget what it was. M. Night Shyamalan movie, where I think part of the thing revolved around them finding someone's concert ticket or whatever it was, or there was like a piece of evidence. And watching the film, and then when that thing happened, it was like, there's no such thing as concert tickets. Like the whole movie is now completely
it's completely foreign now,
unrealistic. But that sort of free souvenir, so to speak,
I loved it, and because like it is like there's this. There was someone else who was talking about it, which is like anytime you get something, a lot of the times now it's like, when you get something a little bit dated, I think part of the charm of it is often is the auxiliary things to it. And like, I'll give you two examples. Is like, one is like, when you see a ticket, I'm always like, oh man, it only costs like $20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you see like the little like sponsor heading and you're like, that company doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, I know. It's
and
cool.
like, if you ever sometimes I'll buy old magazines, like, and just flipping through the ads and you're like, man, they sold a lot of cigarettes in Sports Illustrated back then. You know what I mean? Like there's so much kind of like enjoyment in that stuff.
Okay. So how do you think, what do you think is the connection is there a connection between bringing back tangible objects as a solution to aspiring for less?
That's interesting.
Because I'm not sure. I mean, I think that's where we started, right? The problem is, how do you actually get people to aspire to less? And where you were starting to go was, you were sort of connecting the two potential problems, and I don't know, I haven't like unraveled it in my brain yet. It's like a bowl of spaghetti up there on like what does the tangible object have to do with de-aspiration?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely to me the problems felt like different ingredients in the same soup. That I was like, all right, this is something to forgive me for just getting a ladle and pouring it all over the table here.
Dump it on the table. Yeah.
I was at a record store in Highland Park a couple of weeks ago. I forget the name, but it was just a cool place to hang. It was during when the Argentina Cape Verde the game was, and they had the game on, so we just ended up all hanging out there for a while watching this game. And ended up buying a couple of CDs and just chatting to the owners, and they just had like all this nostalgic memorabilia stuff on the wall, and but they built this really cool space. Mm-hmm. And again, these albums that I bought, I definitely can stream from one of the music services, but it just made me feel like I wanted to come back and hang out at that place. And there was no part of me, again, not that streaming music is aspirational, so maybe that is a bad example, but it kind of...
where I see that, sorry to interrupt, but where I see the connection is, I think that when you buy something physical, you maybe have more desire to actually spend time enjoying it.
Yeah, 100%.
Which maybe doesn't stop, but at least slows down that aspirational, like, okay, well, now what? Like, I listened to that album on Spotify. Well, what's the next one? And then my Discover Weekly is pumping new stuff out to me. And boy, do I hate what that algorithm thinks I listen to.
But sorry, dude. I also wonder how much of it is the fulfillment you get from the item.
Yes.
Right.
Because I've not listened. I think I bought 4 CDs and I've only listened to 3 of them so far. But to me, it was hanging out with this guy who opened this store, and I was so impressed with like, that's what you've done with the space and what you're doing. That to me, that's what that memory was. And again, I remember as a kid, maybe you go into whatever, like a sneaker store, and it's about the full experience of being in the place that is more, satisfying to the soul than just like, I click purchase on the latest thing, it shows up, now I have it. And then like you said, it's like, now what?
I think what you're drawing connection to is like friction leads to appreciation.
Yes.
And appreciation slows down aspiration. Because if you have
framework, and I like it.
That's fantastic. Because like it, honestly, like, cause like I know, like I'm the king of like, I like to have just a dumb hobby to do where I get something done, and it might not necessarily be of particular value, but it gives me a sense of purpose. And if there's one thing I've learned about my life and my weird chemistry is that like, I think happiness in my mind is directly attached to purpose. It's as simple as that. Yeah. And I find that like I can find purpose in very dumb stuff. To your point, like, oh, I'm going to walk to the record store that opened up. I can find purpose and value in that I don't find in like, oh, they got the record here, click, order. Now I guess I'll just wait for it. And I'm sorry.
No, keep going. Sorry.
And the second that you can't get happiness from purpose, frankly, through interacting through friction, it just becomes transactional happiness, which leads to kind of that hyper accelerant of aspiring for more. It's like,
I think purpose is yes for you and for lots of people. I would say more broadly for people, it's fulfillment. Like, I think that like I'm actually, because if we even just, it's so obvious now to me all of a sudden, if we even just think of the neuroscience that we're talking about here, it's quick dopamine is literally the problem. Yes, the elimination of friction, but when you are able to experience dopamine hits, it's how addiction happens. Yeah. When you can experience them so quickly like that, it literally, you start to like the receptors in your brain are like, well, now that doesn't make me happy anymore because I had it so fast and now I just want another one. And now I just need to keep chasing that dopamine hit to feel happiness. You literally have to rewire your brain in order to experience fulfillment and happiness. And most of us have to actively rewire our brains because the world we live in now, from our phones to everything, has made us like addicted to quick hit dopamine.
Yeah. I mean, the end result being those guys from WALL-E, in the chairs.
Exactly.
Because it's like when you see like on I guess the Jetsons, say, if there's just like a meal that shows up in a little cube and they slice it and they eat it, and you're like, that's ridiculous. I would never do that.
Yeah.
But that is how we're consuming a lot of our art, how we are. When we're not too far from that of with the Postmates and the Uber Eats and stuff just being brought straight to you. When you do add those little certain layers of friction, you do part of the fulfillment, or what I thought you were going to say instead of fulfillment was, it sounds quite trite, I guess, but community and I guess the fulfillment of being around people when you do something, which again, annoying, driving, parking, whatever. Like it's all these things that you kind of come to associate with being annoying, but it is like once you get home, you're sort of like, oh, it was nice.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah. I guess I think in my mind, it doesn't always have to be something you experienced with other people necessarily. I think that's probably usually where it would come from. But what did you say, Simon? Experience
friction leads to appreciation,
and appreciation
slows down aspiration.
God, that's good. But I think friction doesn't have to be group activity.
Yeah,
that's why I don't think. But what I think I realized in the conversation is that doing something where you can actually appreciate the object or the experience or the moment or the group or the place or the thing, it sustains you longer. Mm-hmm. I think that you have to do a lot of that to actually rewire your brain to truly stop seeking constant aspiration.
Now we're getting to something interesting, which is like, how do you rebrand or reintroduce friction to people in a way where you go, this is actually, you're going to be happier for this.
But I wonder if some of that is because there's a huge way of doing it. Like you mentioned, going to the World Cup. Like to me, it was taking my wife and daughter to see a big concert, Taylor Swift, but a big concert.
Yeah.
And
it's okay. But I'm sure it was awesome.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
And but you're sort of like, all right. I can't do that every week.
No.
So, but then going back to that idea of like a blockbuster, where it is again far cry from the Eras tour or the World Cup, but it is something that's slightly less convenient. But when you maybe make a family trip to go choose what movie you're going to watch, or even maybe in a sense the fact that movies do seem to be kind of coming back, even though I'd see an alarming amount of cinemas closed here in LA, which is devastating. But the idea that you want to go make a day or an evening of going to go see a movie is makes it more fulfilling, because
way more fulfilling.
We're going to go do that thing.
And it's an event. You know, the funniest thing that I always have with going to see a film is when I haven't seen a film for a long time, I'm like, why would I do that? That's not a thing that I need to do anymore. And then when I go to it, I went and saw the Odyssey.
Yeah.
And I was like, because it's an event. It's suddenly now it's like it sits differently in your brain. Your memory of that experience sits differently in your brain rather than like, I am the worst on the I've been bored from this movie for 30 seconds, so I'll switch to my phone. You know what I mean? And it just changes everything.
This is probably the longest, the surprising amount of time to not have said the word attention, which is the fact that a lot of these things we're so kind of like ping, 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 ping.
Yeah.
And maybe the idea of going to a place or having that sort of friction, also it involves putting more attention into doing something as opposed to just springing it up. And
I have a completely nonsensical, irrational idea that will never, ever, ever work. But this is the podcast, so you get to say it on the podcast. I was thinking about, how could you put this into practice? And so I'm thinking about, because you were talking about movies, I was thinking about, it's part of the reason that we keep wanting more and more and more is because we have access to everything that's partially convenience, but also just total volume of content and stuff out there. So what if the way that streaming platforms work, let's take Netflix. What if every Sunday on Netflix, you had to choose the 10 things that you wanted to watch that week and everything else locked on the platform for the next 7 days?
I would very much welcome that.
It would be cool, right? Yeah. They would never do it. And what's interesting to me is that it's not saying, hey, Netflix, do less. Yeah. You can still have hundreds and thousands of titles on Netflix, but now the consumer experience is you're going to make an intentional choice of the 10 things for the next 7 days that remain unlocked on this platform.
Yeah.
Everything else goes dark. And now you have to sit in that choice. You have to appreciate it. You might finish something, but you can't immediately now just like see what else is out there. You have, I don't know, 5 things. Maybe it's not 10. Maybe 10's too many.
10 is quite generous.
Yeah. You get 3 options. Anyway, it's interesting to me to think about this idea of forcing friction. Yeah. But it's not even why I like
know that's friction.
Exactly. It's why I sort of thought it was, exactly. Because it's like, we're never going to, I don't think we will reverse fully this convenience culture that we live in. So how do you work with what we have and say, look, I'm not going to take away the convenience of streaming. However, I'm going to change the UX and user like experience around it so that you can actually derive appreciation, which will slow your brain down and slow and help you de-aspire. I'm just going to keep using that dumb word.
No, that's really interesting.
So yeah, that's my idea. Netflix.
I like
Feel free.
I like it. I love the idea of like trying to, like, I think I've seen it done on small scale, but I was honestly just the reason I was staring off in the distance there was I was trying to think of like, is there any companies I can think of who really like actually introduced more friction back into a product or an experience or a service? Because like that, it feels like it's not very du jour to do that.
I mean, the one that comes to mind for me, but it's quite literally what the product is brick.
The phone.
Yeah.
It's not a phone. It's the device that
slows down your phone
and eliminates like it just allows you to be like, look, I can be available on text and email, but everything else is not. And the way it works is literally the friction of having to go like it's a physical device. So to turn it off, you have to literally get up and go like change the like
that one's almost more like gatekeeping to me. Like, I know what you mean. It is friction for sure. 100%. But it's not like it's like,
the one I was thinking was maybe, I don't know I guess this is friction, but when Disneyland, I think it was a COVID related thing, and I'm pretty sure they've done away with it now. But you had to make a reservation before you went to Disneyland. So I guess they wanted to cap the number of people. And I think, again, they've probably done away with that. But it made it feel like, that's the day I have to go. And that's the day I could get a reservation. And it wasn't so much gatekeepy or, making the whole scarcity economy.
Yeah.
Maybe in a way it was that, but it definitely made you feel like, okay, there's, it was less openly available. It was like, these are the only days you could go. And I guess in a way restaurants do that, where it is hard to get in somewhere. But maybe that's not so much friction there.
What made you get back into buying CDs?
I had a car, and it's not a very old car, but they had a little part on it, this little slot. And I'd had the car for 2 years or so. And my son said, "What's this thing? What's this for here?" And I was like, I'd never noticed it, and it was a CD thing. And I had like in the box of infinite cables that we just refused to throw away. Yeah. I had a bunch of CD wallets from 93 or whatever, or 98, and I was like, all right, let's throw them on. And people, again, we could stream anything ever, and I was like, guys, just choose something by the cover of the CD. And everyone just loved, kind of getting to know this music. And that was it. And now that I do, when I see a little record store, I never really got into vinyl, but now I'll find these little CDs of trying to rebuild what was once upon a time a substantial collection.
Oh my God.
When you can find the originals where you're sort of like, I used to listen to this, Alice in Chains CD 100 times, whatever it is. It's fun to find them. And you do end up, because there is that friction where, all right, I'm done listening to Smashing Pumpkins again. But my wallet's all the way over there. I guess it's annoying to have to unplug, press eject and switch it. Yeah. So it makes you just stick with the album a bit more instead of just listening to the first couple tracks. You appreciate things a little more. And I think that the next thing would be getting more into the physical media with DVDs or Blu-rays, whatever you call them.
That's a huge cinephile thing now.
Yeah.
Is like getting a Blu-ray connection and stuff, which blows my mind.
Well, part of it, I think, is because you don't know where things are streaming all the time.
Yeah.
It switches so much. And again, I've been told, probably people listening to this yelling at like, just you need to just get into it because the image quality, the sound quality is supposed to be outstanding. But it's very difficult to find them. They don't sell them at the Best Buy. There are no record stores really. So it's like, where do you even find them? So yes, but I think that the hunt for it becomes part of the joy of the game. Yeah,
and it becomes satisfaction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think that the, because I'm still going to keep thinking about the aspiration side of this, I was totally tracking until you started talking about the hunt and the collection. And then I was thinking, ooh, does that get you stuck then in needing?
I caught that too.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I need the next one. And I want to, and I understand that there can be purpose within that and fulfillment within it. It's not doing it for the sake of it. It's a collection. It's something you value. But it was interesting as we were talking about it, that all of a sudden it sounded like chasing the next thing and getting the next one and building the collection and having the thing.
I wonder if it is, instead of it being a positive that here, click this thing and you have all of cinema, you're actually aspiring because it's like, I got the best version of this one movie. I got the most high res, whatever. This is the director's new print of this thing. So it's kind of, I guess it's a different form of aspiration.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like I was looking at, because I wrote it down, like how do we get people to aspire to less? And I was like, to me, I'm like, do we need to tweak it to like, how do we get people to stop aspiring without purpose or something like that? Cause it's like, I think what we were kind of like frustrated by at the start. Well, I mean, there was a few things, but I think one of the things that felt interesting that we were frustrated by, and you mentioned, it's like, oh, I need the new phone. Oh, I need the new this. Oh, I need the new that. I need the new this. And it's like, to your point, like I got a phone that's a year and a half old. I have not had any problems with it whatsoever. And I know enough now about iPhones to know that like when the next one comes, my life will not change one iota, but I will still probably be like, oh, I should probably get that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and I think like when you start to say, okay, but is aspiration bad when you're trying to chase down a record or a CD or something?
Yeah.
To me, that has purpose. And to me, I think there's joy and purpose in kind of like, I'm interested in this and I'm trying to find that thing, which feels different than just sort of like thoughtless aspiration.
But that sounds like the difference between the dopamine hit and the fulfillment.
Yes, exactly.
I think so.
I think so too. I think it's aspiration with fulfillment versus aspiration just for like the sake of consumerism.
Aspiration without appreciation too, I think to some degree. Cause I think like a lot of like, if you really like appreciate a craft or a hobby or something like that, you're spending time with it and you're thinking about it and you see the difference between that and that. Like, I'll be honest, if someone put on a Blu-ray and a stream of Netflix, I am not the guy to be able to tell you the difference between those two. But for the people who really care, I'm sure it's like you really love it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So like I don't have a problem as much with that sort of aspiration if you have real heart and care into it. It doesn't feel as toxic, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then can it ever scale to the point?
It probably could.
But to the point where, again, you get companies who are trying to just increase the shareholder value or the value of their share to make more money at lower costs versus there's this other company over here who's like, they're hiring more people. You know what I mean? Maybe their profits are slightly less. Or I was thinking even about, again, this is not an anti-Apple podcast, but the notion that like Apple increased the cost of all of their products. They're a $1 trillion company. Maybe at this point, $2 trillion. I don't know how much they value that.
Trillion, bajillion, cajillion.
It's close to our debt. But they don't need to turn up the heat on everybody. They could have just been like, you know what, actually, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? And again, it's like, so what? But they're not running a charity, but also like what's the point in being so big and successful if you're not doing something good?
I have a take, and you're all welcome to disagree with me, but it's like, it's not the company, it's the people in the company. Like, I think when you get into a culture like that, you're hired with, this is the expectation. And it's sort of like, you become a part of like, I better do that thing. And when you have enough people all operating on that operating system, it just fundamentally kind of creates exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's hard. Like once you get going, I don't know. It's such a mind fuck, to be honest, because it's like, I completely agree with you, and it makes no sense to me. But at the same time, I've never, ever, ever heard anybody say you can stop getting bigger.
But I think as we all here have started companies in the last couple of years, and the thing that we go back and ask ourselves all the time is, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Not like woe is me, why are we doing this? But like to remind ourselves, like, well, what is the point?
Yeah, totally.
And you could just be like anything else and just go work for someone else. And I always think of the person early morning setting up the sign outside of the little coffee shop, the little sandwich shop, and I'm like, that guy could have gone and joined any other sandwich shop.
Yeah.
Why does he think that he needs to sell his sandwiches? And there'll be a point maybe where, I'll give up on the sandwich analogy, but I think there is, yes, the companies are the people. That is kind of really what they are. And we have dealt with a lot of really good people who come from these very successful companies, who are working with some very successful companies, and they seem very burned out, very stressed out, and not performing at their best, performing very much out of fear. And you always wonder, like, well, does the person at the top know that this is what's happening down here? Because it's not good. Mm-hmm. But if the person up there is like, no one's informing him or her, like how to conduct themselves, except for, I guess, the feeling that you have to be growing, you have to, and it's like, but kind of why?
I mean, For what? To your point, I mean, I remember a very distinct conversation that we had also with Roman at the beginning of this company, which was like, for us, success is never going to be tied to like a number of people. Like when we have 200 employees, we were like, that doesn't matter. Like we don't need to have 27 offices and 500 people. Maybe we will, but that's not the goal, is growth in that direction. Cause it just seems like, but why? The purpose of this wasn't to have 500 people in 27 offies, I mean, yes,
have 630
it's
offices.
600 and Look, our feelings have changed. It's actually a really tense subject.
Well, I mean, like, I think like what we're all talking about on some level is just like a weird phenomenon of being a human being. I think honestly, which is like, there is a way to get into our brains and go like, whether it's on small things, whether it's on societal things, whether it's on career things, there's a small way to like find a way into our brains and just like ratchet up that temperature a little bit and be like, you got to keep running. What I mean? And you got to keep chasing it. And like across everything, we fall for it. And the thing I do think it was like a really kind of interesting breakthrough as we started talking about this is like, one thing that does pull you out of it a little bit is when you find value and appreciation in the doing of something and not just getting to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you do find value and appreciation in hunting for the next CD, in my case, like doing something stupid in my backyard. Jesse, I'm sure you have a few. You haven't shared as many this one, so I couldn't pull one specifically for you.
Finding the candy with the perfect chew.
There you go. So like,
that's my purpose in life.
Those things both slow us down and I think make us appreciate things more. And for that split second in a world right now where I think a lot of us are overcranked on that little kind of part of our head that's saying like, keep going. It's like, I think what we're talking about is like, we need more of the other thing. We need more of that.
I'm not as good at summarizing it in the fashion that you had like a few minutes ago. But I think the word that I've not said yet is the word enough.
Yeah.
And no, we're not wired to know, even with food, it's like things taste so good when it's like, I'm going to eat the whole bag of this or whatever it is. And how you aspire to have enough.
Yeah.
Which is
an interesting way to put it.
Of having more. It's like, surely enough should be the goal.
Do you know what I love about that word? It sounds like it's tied to a certain quantity, but actually the word enough to me is more about a feeling than a quantity, because enough doesn't have to mean, look, you already have 10 of these things. That's enough. To me, to have enough means it. I guess I'll go back to the fulfillment. You're like, I feel filled. Like this is, I love this. This is cool. And this is exciting. And I love that word. I think it's so interesting in the context of this. And in all aspects of life, we think, what we have is not enough.
And sometimes it's scary. Like there was a point where I think I'd thought to myself, like within my, I don't really mean this, but I do, but within my career, I think I've achieved enough. But I'm still going to keep going. I still got many kids and they need to eat, but and I love what I do. But I think when acknowledging that, I was like, oh, that's kind of a nice feeling.
That's interesting.
And that I think it should be everyone's goal, is to, whether it is having enough, eating enough, whatever the thing, it doesn't have to be consumery, do enough, like, do you feel like you've done enough? So oftentimes, if you have a loved one, are you showing that enough? Like the things that, it gets quite kind of pseudo spiritual Buddhist to know like really what that feeling is and how to kind of tap into it, because you might just be numb to it. I don't know what the Japanese word is for like eating only till you're 80% full. And I think of that all the time and just blast right through it. But
do you think you're pretty self-content?
I don't know what that means, but I think so.
Yeah. Because I think we're a little bit what we're talking of. Do you think you are?
No.
I don't know if I am or not.
It's the word enough to me hits home very deeply, because I think that one of the mental habits I'm actively trying to break is how often I think I'm not enough, or what I'm doing is not enough, or it's one of the most repetitive thoughts that I have.
Yeah.
And what we talked about here in this conversation, it just, I don't know, it just framed it in a different way for me, because when you talk about being enough doesn't have to equal stopping, I think is really interesting.
I agree.
Yeah. No, this is therapy 101,
No, I don't know if I am either. I will say, I think aging, it's like the only thing about aging that has been nice is I do think I've had a little more perspective on like, okay, I really do like this. I don't need that. Yeah. And trust me, I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not a person who's like, oh, it turns out I only need this, and exactly this. But I do notice now that I'm like, maybe I don't need a private jet one day. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's going to markedly make me any happier.
Well, sometimes I think it's fun to just know that perhaps a dumb purchase is only going to kind of go through this little empty, bottomless hole here. And it's not going to solve anything. Totally. But like there was a point, I was very overworked and just feeling, and I would just come off of a crazy project. And then someone put another one on the table following, like they were overlapping slightly. And I knew that I had no brain power for it. And I said, yes. And I was like, that's just feel like an addict's brain, just being like just keep going. Yeah. And then midway through that, I was like, I just need to buy some sneakers. I didn't need it. Totally. I'm not even leaving the house. And you feel like you just know it's like a silly thing. And as long as you're not tricking yourself, as long as you know how shallow it is, it's like, it's fine.
That's interesting too. Like sometimes that, what did you call it earlier? Almost like a pointless aspiration. Pointless wasn't the word you used, but sort of like a purposeless aspiration. Actually can have a purpose. Yeah. Because sometimes you do need to just fill the hole, but being aware of it is kind of interesting to be like, look, this is dumb, but the dumb thing's going to bring me a little bit of joy for 2 minutes. And if I don't have joy for 2 minutes right now, I'm going off the rails.
Right now. I like that. Well, like, I mean, I have that relationship, frankly, with drinking. Like, to be fully honest, I'm just like, some days like, man, I'm exhausted. I could either go for a run or I could just drink 6 beers. And I'm going to drink 6 beers.
I'm going to drink 6 beers.
You know what I mean?
And then you go for a run the next day. And then I go for a run
the next day.
Yeah.
Should I wrap it up? I know we're running low on time. Okay, so.
My God, that was fun.
We had a really good conversation, a really interesting conversation. I did not write enough stuff down, but I'm going to try and do it. And we started kind of trying to nail down exactly what we wanted to talk about. We talked about the value of music and experiences, the value of making things tangible and what that means. And then we kind of, I think, Jesse, you nailed the kind of a really interesting encapsulation I think we went fully at, which was how do you get people to aspire to less, which felt like kind of like an interesting way. You talked a lot about this idea of like, specifically with respect to editorial, when the product no longer serves the purpose, it far exceeds even what's needed from that, but people keep going after it, even though you don't actually really need that. Then we got into this really interesting conversation that I think really opened things up, which was the importance of a little bit of friction, of just how like friction helps you sort of kind of take note, appreciation, and then the counterpoint, which was like losing your sense of self when there isn't friction and when there isn't friction and also when there isn't tethers to the real world, you suddenly become sort of like on this global scale rather than just the day-to-day that's in front of you right now. We talked about the connection of the physical to slowing down aspiration and how friction leads to appreciation and how without appreciation, it can lead to the hyper aspiration that we're kind of all concerned about. But then I think you kind of nailed a re-saying of it at the end, which was like, how do you aspire to having enough?
Yeah.
So I think we got to the question.
And we got to the question.
Jesse, did we crack it?
No, but man, I've got a lot to think about.
Yeah. Biff, did we crack it?
I think so.
Nice. There you go.
In as much as now we know what the question is.
Yeah. I think that's what we did. I think we had a really great conversation around kind of understanding what a really interesting what the next interesting conversation would be around how do you aspire to having enough. I don't know if we figured out how to do that yet. We quickly talked a little bit about Buddhism, about self-satisfaction, all those sort of things, but I'm not sure we hit that one. So I'm going to say we haven't cracked it, but I'm going to say that was, again, just echoing you. That was a wonderful conversation.
Spiritual.
You guys are really good at hosting this.
Well, Biff, thank you you're really good at bringing the questions and the thoughts. So thank you so much, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you
awesome.
so much.
Yeah. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time on another episode of Crack It. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Crack It in an Hour. If you like the show, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you have questions, thoughts, or feedback, shoot us an email at hello@crackitpodcast.com or on Instagram @crackitpodcast. Music done by Michael Anastasi, cover art shot by Mick Mint, and all things audio and video taken care of by Nathan Nash. See you next time.